Tatarstan Airlines Flight 363 was a scheduled domestic passenger flight, operated by Tatarstan Airlines on behalf of AK Bars Aero, from Moscow to Kazan, Russia. On November 17, 2013, at 1924 local time, UTC+4, the Boeing 737-500 crashed during an aborted landing at Kazan International Airport, killing all 44 passengers and 6 crew members on board, making it 2013's worst plane crash. 2. According to the official investigation report by the Interstate Aviation Committee, IAC, the crash was a result of pilot error, arising from a lack of skill to recover from an excessive nose-up attitude during a go-around procedure. The pilot's deficiencies were caused by a problem with the airline's safety management and a lack of regulatory oversight. One member of the commission filed an alternative opinion report, however, claiming that the commission had ignored the possible malfunction of the aircraft's elevator controls. 3. Accident. Crash profile. Flight 363 took off from Domodedovo International Airport in Moscow at 6:25 p.m. local time, destined for Kazan International Airport, some 800 kilometers, 500 miles, 430 nmi, east of Moscow. 4. While on final approach to Kazan International Airport, the crew initiated a go-around due to an unstable approach but crashed onto the runway in a 75-degree nose-down attitude, at a speed of 242 knots, 448 kilometers per hour, 278 miles per hour, moments later, and exploded upon impact with the ground. 5. A second explosion occurred 40 seconds after impact. One of the airport's surveillance cameras caught the crash on video. All 44 passengers and 6 crew members were killed. There were no casualties on the ground. High winds and cloudy conditions were reported at the airport at the time of the crash. 6. 7. The Kazan International Airport was kept closed for about 24 hours, serving only transit flights, before it was fully reopened on November 18. Aircraft. The Boeing 737-53A, registration number VQBBN, had been in service for more than 23 years. It had been operated by 7 airlines, 9, owned by AWAS from its manufacturer. Boeing customer code 3A represents AWAS. It was leased to Eurolair, 1990 to 1992, registered FGGML, Air France, 1992 to 1995, still as FGGML, Uganda Airlines, 1995 to 1999, registered 5XUSM, Rio Seoul, 2000 to 2005, registered PTSSI, Blue Air, 2005 to 2008, registered YRBAB, Bulgaria Air, several months in 2008, registered LZ Boy, and Tatarstan Airlines, late 2008 until it crashed. 9. 10. The airframe had been involved in 2 prior incidents. While in service with Rio Seoul, on December 17, 2001, the aircraft crashed about 70 meters, 230 feet, short of the runway while landing at Tancredo Neves International Airport under adverse weather conditions, damaging its landing gear. All 108 passengers and crew on board survived. 11. 12. On November 26, 2012, the aircraft made an emergency landing in Kazan due to problems with cabin depressurization shortly after takeoff. 13. Crew. The captain was 47-year-old Rustam Gabdrakhmanovich Salakhov, who had been with the airline since 1992. He had 2,755 flight hours, including 2,509 hours on the Boeing 737. The first officer was Viktor Nikiforovich Gutzel, who was also 47. He had been with the airline since 2008 and had 2,093 flight hours, with 1,943 of them on the Boeing 737. 14. 15. Additional citations needed. Victims. Nationality: passengers, crew total. Russia 42,648. United Kingdom 101. Ukraine 101. Total 44,650. The full list of the passengers and crew was published by the Ministry of Emergency Situations. One of the victims was Irek Minikhanov, the son of the incumbent president of the Republic of Tatarstan, Rustam Minikhanov. 16. Investigation. Crash site of Flight 363. The IAC launched an investigation into the crash and arrived at the site on November 18. Both flight recorders, the flight data recorder, FDR, and the cockpit voice recorder, CVR, were recovered from the wreckage. 17. The Tatarstan Transport Prosecution Office has opened a criminal investigation into the crash. 5. The American National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, dispatched a team of investigators to the crash site. 18. On November 19, Aksan Jiniyatulin, the director of Tatarstan Airlines, declared that although the cockpit crew was experienced, the captain of the airliner may have lacked experience performing a go-around maneuver. Moments before the crash, the pilot informed the control tower that the aircraft was not properly configured for landing and initiated a go-around, before plunging into the ground as if it had stalled. Investigators said the possible causes of the accident included technical malfunction as well as pilot error. 19. On November 22, the British Air Accidents Investigation Branch, AAIB, announced they had joined the investigation and had dispatched investigators to Kazan. 2. Official reports. According to the criminal case report, released November 14, 2019 by the Investigative Committee of Russia, the investigation determined that crash was a direct result of erroneous actions on the part of the captain, Salikov, and the first officer, Gutzel. Based on information obtained during the investigation, Salikov was lacking sufficient piloting skills and was granted piloting on a basis of falsified documents. 21. On November 19, 2013, the Investigation Board of the IAC reported the following preliminary details after recovering some information from the flight data recorder, Frowny Face 22-23. Tatarstan Airlines, Boeing 737-500 Accident Technical Investigation Board of IAC, informs about preliminary results of flight data recorder information recovery. During the final approach, the flight crew were unable to follow a standard landing pattern defined by the regulating documentation. Having realized the aircraft was not lined up properly relative to the runway, the crew reported to the ATC and started to go around using the toga, takeoff/go-around, mode. One of the two autopilots, which was active during the final approach, had been switched off and the flight was being controlled manually. The engines reached thrust level close to full. The crew retracted the flaps from 30 degrees to 15 degrees position. Affected by the upturn moment generated by the engine thrust, the aircraft started to climb, reaching the pitch angle of about 25 degrees. Indicated airspeed started to decrease. The crew retracted the landing gear. Since initiating the go-around maneuver up to this moment, the crew did not perform control actions through the yoke. After the airspeed decreased from 150 to 125 knots, 278 to 232 kilometers per hour, 173 to 144 miles per hour, the crew started control actions through the yoke, pitching the nose down, which led to stopping the climb, then starting descent and increasing the airspeed. Maximum angles of attack have not exceeded operational limits during the flight. After reaching the altitude of 700 meters, 2,300 feet, the aircraft started a steep nosedive, with the pitch angle reaching -75 degrees by the end of the flight. End of the recording. The aircraft collided with terrain at high speed, exceeding 450 kilometers per hour, 240 knots, 280 miles per hour, and with highly negative pitch angle. About 45 seconds have passed between the moment of starting go-around maneuver and the moment the recording stopped. The descent took about 20 seconds. The propulsion systems were operating up to the collision with terrain. No single commands have been detected by the preliminary analysis, which would indicate failures of systems or units of the aircraft or engines. Final report. On December 24, 2015, the IAC released their final report stating that the crash was caused by an underqualified crew who lacked the skills to recover from an excessive nose-up attitude during a go-around procedure. The go-around was necessitated by a positional error in the navigation system, a map drift. The pilot's deficiencies were caused by lack of airline safety management and lack of regulators' oversight. 24-14-25. According to the final report, during the final approach the crew initiated a go-around, but being under high workload, which possibly caused a tunnel vision effect, they did not perceive warning messages related to autopilot disconnection. When the plane climbed to 700 m, its pitch angle reached 25 degrees and the airspeed dropped to 230 km per hour. At that moment the captain, who had not performed a go-around outside of training, moved the yoke, pitching nose down, which led to stopping climb and started a descent and increase of the aircraft's airspeed. After reaching the altitude of 700 m, the aircraft started a steep nosedive, with the pitch angle reaching -75 degrees when the aircraft impacted the ground. The plane crashed on the airport's runway with a speed exceeding 450 km per hour. The time from the start of the go-around maneuver until the impact was about 45 seconds, including 20 seconds of aircraft descent. 14. Alternative Opinion Report. Nikolai Studenikin, the official representative of the Rosaviatsia in the Air Accident Investigation Commission, filed an alternative opinion report, in which he expressed his disagreement with the conclusions of the commission. 3. In it he stated that the IAC Commission concentrated the investigation on the search of the shortcomings in the flight crew training in Russia, and that no direct connection between such shortcomings and the Flight 363 crash was actually established. He also criticized that the investigation into the possible malfunction of the aircraft's elevator's controls was entrusted to their manufacturer, the US-based Parker Aerospace, which ruled that their controls operated normally during the accident. According to Studenikin, a flight simulation of the crashed flight, which was conducted on the Boeing facilities, was aimed only on proving the crew's fault and didn't simulate a possible mechanical failure in the Boeing aircraft. 3. Aircraft certificate suspension. Rosaviatsia refused to accept the results of the IAC's Flight 363 accident investigation, citing their concern over the Boeing 737's elevator's controls. 26. IAC suggested that the position by Rosaviatsia was caused by their reluctance to accept the shortcomings of Rosaviatsia's regulatory oversight of pilot training in Russia, which was revealed in the report. On November 4, 2015, IAC unexpectedly announced the suspension of Boeing 737 flying certificates in Russia, explaining it by Rosaviatsia's refusal to accept the absence of safety issues with 737 elevator controls. 27. With the Boeing 737 being a workhorse of several Russian airlines, the suspension meant that within days the significant part of the country's passenger fleet could be grounded for an uncertain period of time. Dmitry Peskov, a spokesman for the Russian president, said that Kremlin was aware of the IAC decision to suspend Boeing's 737 operation in Russia and believed that the specialized agencies and the cabinet would make the necessary analysis of the situation. 27. Ministry of Transport said that only 6 out of 150 Boeing 737 aircraft in Russia have the certificates issued by IAC. The rest got their certificates in other countries and thus IAC has no right to suspend them. 26. Rosaviatsia announced that the IAC had no right to ban any Boeing 737 operation in Russia, as such a decision could be made only by the federal executive bodies. 27. It called an emergency meeting to discuss the future of Boeing 737 in Russia with the participation of Ministry of Transport, Rostransnadzor, airline representatives, and a Boeing representative in Russia, but IAC refused to attend it. 26. The next day the IAC withdrew its suspension of Boeing 737 certificates. 26. On December 10, 2015, the IAC met and officially accepted its Flight 363 final accident investigation report. 28. Rosaviatsia and Studenikin refused to participate in this meeting or provide their approval for the report. 28. Aftermath. In early December 2013, Russia's Federal Air Transport Agency recommended that the airline's certificate should be revoked. 29, 30, 31. The revocation was announced on December 31, 2013, and the company's aircraft were transferred to AK Bars Aero, 32.